chapter 2.
All right, well, good evening, and I'm Dr. Felicia Durden, and we are going to be doing our second round of Isn't Her Grace Amazing? The Women Who Changed Gospel Music by Cheryl Wills. We had an excellent discussion at our last meeting where we went through chapter 1. We spent a whole hour going through there, and those were the Queen Mothers. Some of the ones who we really focused on last time were, of course, you can't have a talk about gospel music without Mahalia Jackson. And we talked about her and the influence that she had on gospel music. And then we also took some time to look into Inez Williams. In fact, let me see if I can go backward. And then we can see. So we talked about our Queen Mothers. We talked about Mahalia Jackson and how she was just an amazing singer. And many gospel singers base what they do off of the work of Mahalia Jackson. We also talked about Sally Martin, who was also a very famous gospel singer who got an influence from Mahalia as well as her church roots. Albertina Walker, who is one of my favorites, was a very prolific singer, had many beautiful songs that are still sung to this day. And she also was into music writing and made a lot of money in that. And one of the key things that came out last time was how these women who during a time when women were not really the most popular singers in gospel, they came and really made a change. And so for this week, we're talking about Sisters in Song. So we are on chapter 2 of the thing. Oh, and one of our people is asking me to send them the information by email, which is hard when I'm on the call. Brianna, do you think you can send it back to Joanne by email?
Sure, I'll take care of that. One moment.
Thank you so much. All right, so Sisters in Song. And on this picture are the actresses who played the Clark sisters. There was a movie written about them that was very popular. And those were the actresses who played the Clark sisters, who are also some popular women singers. So the first group that we're going to talk about are the Davis sisters. So the Davis sisters starts on page 42. They had a group with Ruth, Thelma, Audrey, Alfreda, and Edna, and they're from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. They were what was called pioneers in singing hard gospel, quote, hard gospel. That was a unique physical style with highly emotive, synchronized harmonies and choreographed movements. So they were famous for having this sound that was very hard. They called it hard music, hard gospel. They really went at it. And we all know and probably heard of Ray Charles. He said his raylettes, his signature background singers, were based off of the music of the Davis sisters. Oh, welcome, Michelle Bicey. Good to see you here.
Good to be here.
Nice to have you. We're just getting started. Our first singer are the Davis sisters. So this is the book, Isn't Her Grace Amazing? Women Who Changed Gospel Music. All right, so we're going to see a clip of the Davis sisters. And again, they were said to sing hard gospel, that they really came at it. So we have a clip of them.
And we're driven on our restless sea of time. Summer skies and holly timber all succeed the bright sunshine. There's a land of perfect day where the mist is rolled away. We will understand it better by and by.
Okay, so those are the Davis sisters. And again, they were known to sing hard gospel and to imitate their sound like male performers. Just from what you heard right there, what do you think the author meant by they had sang hard? They sang hard, quote, hard gospel. Their style was so dynamic that they often imitated male groups. Their style was described as highly emotive, filled with synchronized harmonies, and punctuated with choreographed movements. Did you all hear that or see that? Just anyone can discuss. Welcome, Eva.
Thank you. Thank you. Good to be here.
Have you guys ever heard of the Davis sisters? I had not until I read this book. I had never heard their music at all. I had not heard of them. But again, Ray Charles, his Raylettes was under their influence of their singing. I could say just the way that they're not trying to be, what Mahalia Jackson wasn't either, and we listened to her the last time. They really put a lot of emotion into it. We didn't see them swaying a lot in that clip, but they were known to start with the choreographing of their music. And we can see that in a lot of Black gospel choirs, that they sometimes move and do different type of movements. This all came from back in this time with singers like the Davis sisters. And they were most famous in the 60s. Their 1968 hit was Wait a Little Longer, and that was nominated for actually a Grammy Award. They began to gain popularity in Philadelphia when the sisters just continued to get their singing out there. They were a big hit, and many of their music arrangements were developed by their sister Ruth Davis. And she incorporated music from doo-wop, R&B, and emerging rock and roll. And we saw that a lot, that many singers came from the church. A lot of them got their start in the church because that's the place you would go to sing and to practice your voice. And so this was no difference with the Davis sisters. And they weren't afraid to bring that sound into the church music, but that wasn't always looked on positively. And we'll keep talking about that throughout the book, but especially with women and how that they brought that in. So that was their blueprint. Any questions on the Davis sisters before we move on to the Barrett sisters? All right, then we'll move on to our next group. These are the Barrett sisters. And this was another group I didn't know much about. They're from Chicago. And this was Delois, Billy, and Rhodessa. And they are from Chicago again. And they were considered the world's greatest female trio in gospel history because of the plethora of recordings. And they brought gospel music to nearly every continent. They didn't just stay in the US with their music. They went across the sea with their songs. They got stellar awards and they were very well allocated for their music. They would sing God's praises. It says, would show up in the room, and they were an anointed trio, and they were known for swooping their voices from octave to octave and singing together in perfect harmony. So let's see what they mean by that. Let's listen to the Barrett sisters for a minute. And what I like is I'm learning so much about these different singers from this study because some of them I had not heard of. I've only heard of the Clark sisters, which we're going to talk about soon. All the others are completely new to me. I had never heard of them or their music. All right, one moment. We are on the Barrett sisters. Here they are.
Felicia,
Yes.
they were also new to me.
Were they? Oh, welcome, Joanne.
Thank
Very
you.
new.
I got on through my phone. I have a new computer, and so I wasn't real sure what to do there. But no, these sisters were new to me.
Yeah, I had never heard of this group at all. So I was really having fun when I was finding their music for us to sample today. So this is a more recent clip of them.
Okay.
All right, so here we go.
Wings of faith to fly away, to be at rest. I wanna rest, Lord, give me wings, give me
different octaves. That's what they're known for. They can go high and low.
Yes.
I like this one.
You said I've got to die. I'm gonna fly away. Yes, I'm gonna fly away. Lord, give me wings, give me wings.
I like that. That's perfect. And this is a great clip to illustrate what the author had told us about the Barrett sisters, in that they can go from octave to octave. We heard one sister that has the high falsetto, and then one can go down low in bass. And we hear that a lot again in choirs, that you have the holding that high note. That is a very, I don't know what we call that. I wish I had my music person here. But that is a very popular way to sing. They sang and branched out, and they got popularity actually. And I don't remember this. Some of you may, that there was a documentary that was called Say Amen. And they, from that documentary, they were invited to sing on The Tonight Show, The Oprah Show, and Bobby Jones Gospel. So they were also in a documentary called The Sweet Sisters of Zion. So they gained a lot of popularity in the 2000s when these documentaries came out, because the Barrett sisters had such an impact on gospel music as it has evolved. And those of you who weren't here last time, we spent an exhaustive amount of time talking about Mahalia Jackson and how she influenced gospel so much. I actually saw her documentary after the last book talk because I wanted to learn more about this phenomenal woman. She was so smart, but boy, did she push her body. I was watching one scene where she had very bad heart problems, and she would go out there and sing, and she would just be so sick and come to the back room, but they wanted an encore, and she would just push herself and go back out there. It's just the strength that that she had, and the strength that these women had. This was not easy what they're doing. Gospel music at first was not a woman's thing. And these girls, especially, I mean, they talk about them just being able to harmonize and performing globally. I mean, they didn't even just stay in the US. They went around the world. Just a little discussion. What does, because I don't think many of us are familiar with them, but what does that tell you about women during that time? So this is the 70s, 60s, 70s. What were we doing at that time? What were we beginning to think and believe about ourselves?
Well, I'm not sure what you're looking for, but I think that was when we first began to think that we could do more than the things that we were doing at that time.
Mhm.
And we began to compete with the men in some areas.
Yes, we began to believe women's rights and that we had a right to do things that maybe men had told us before we could not. A TV show that I remember coming on, I was a little girl at that time, was Maude. You guys remember the show Maude?
Yes.
I loved watching her because she was just so strong. She was so different from Miss Cleaver and all those. She was out there doing things. So she was also amazing. Oh, I hear some sound.
Potatoes are done, nice and crispy. Now let's get
Tempest,
to
if
the
you can
lamb
mute
chops.
yourself, we can hear
A
you.
little bit of oil.
Okay.
I
All
want
right.
it hot.
All right, and welcome, by the way. It's nice to see all of our guests here. Any other thoughts on?
Before you go,
Go ahead.
further,
Yes,
on page 50, you were talking about Mahalia Jackson and all.
yes, yes.
And so on page 50 down at the bottom, it says both Dorsey and Mahalia Jackson were close friends and neighbors of the trio, the
The
sisters.
Barrett sisters, yes.
And so I'm sure there was a lot, and we can hear it in their
Yeah.
music and their phrasing, the influence that Mahalia Jackson had on them. But it talks about it right there in the book, the influence that she had on them.
Yes, she did. Thank you, Joanne.
Mhm.
Right there in that final paragraph there. They sang in
Yes.
the direction of their aunt and often taught the sisters songs from the father gospel, Tommy Dorsey.
Mm-hmm.
They had worked with him, and Mahalia Jackson was someone who was friendly with them and influenced them.
And then those were two people that I always loved their music, Thomas Dorsey and Mahalia Jackson. I used to just think, oh, let me sing like her. Let me sing like her. And I'm not really a singer, but I loved the tonality and quality of her voice.
Oh, her voice is something that no one can ever compete with. She's just the most beautiful, beautiful voice she had.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Anyone else, any thoughts on so far the two sister groups we've looked at? And again, this week we're talking about sisters, and oftentimes families sing together, groups. Secular world, we know of some famous groups that sing together, but gospel sister groups were very popular back in the day. Brothers too, the Williams brothers, we've heard of them. The Winans, you know, but women groups singing together was also a very popular thing. Anyone have an influence or any thoughts on Mahalia Jackson? Those of you who weren't here last week, what do you know about her? So I'm gonna call some people out on the spot. Eva, what do you know about Mahalia Jackson?
Well, I know that she was phenomenal. I know that she had an incredible voice, and she was very popular, a lot of popular music.
Yes.
And she was an inspiration to many people. She was very much loved, very much loved.
Very much loved. Michelle, how about you? Miss Bicey, Dr. Bicey, I should say.
When I think of Mahalia Jackson, didn't she sing the song at the end of The Invitation of Life, the movie?
Yes, we watched that clip and that was so inspiring. Yes.
Yeah, I always think about that. Her voice was just powerful, and the way that, you know, it was God spoke through her in song.
Yes.
And you could see it, you could feel it, you knew it. And so she was just, you know, you hear many gospel singers say that she was an inspiration, and we know why, right? We know why.
We see it. Oh, that clip.
I love the fact that she was so powerful and so phenomenal. But yes, she was an inspiration. She reached back and she helped others, as you just shared a minute ago, Felicia, how she was an inspiration and she helped others to come along.
She brought them up. Beautiful, beautiful. Tempest, how about you? What do you know about Mahalia Jackson? She's a young one. She knows much. Miss Tempest, and then Miss Ruth, I'm gonna ask you next.
Okay. Sister Lisa, what I know about Mahalia Jackson is I know like some had already said she was a phenomenal singer, and of course she was an inspiration to a lot of people and everything. And one of the songs that I've heard, I had heard some of the saints sing. I think when I watched some of the older videos, I think one of the songs that one of them had sang was "Take My Hand, Precious Lord." That was one of my favorite songs.
That is a good one by Mahalia. Thank you, Tempest.
You're welcome.
Miss Ruth, what do you know about Mahalia Jackson?
Oh, I just know that she was a beautiful singer. Her voices were inspiring and spiritually led by individuals who listened to her.
Yes, beautiful. She was beautiful.
So much of her spirit in her songs.
If you all get a chance, watch her documentary. I don't remember if that was on Netflix or one of those, but it was so good. I want to watch it again. It was
on Hulu.
Beautiful, beautiful movie. And it taught me so much about her. She went through so many ups and downs with marriages and things that we as women, you know, she was a real person. And it was so nice to see that despite all that, she still just gave her heart out and loved singing. Well, our next women group is the Clark sisters. And I'm sure that all of us have heard of them. They even are doing some current things. And I wanted to play their song, Is My Living in Vain? This was very different when they came out. I remember them coming out and I was a young girl and I liked their music. I think we had talked about the last time in my household, we weren't allowed to really listen to anything but church music. Anything else was, my mom called it blues, and you don't play that in the house. So their songs were a little bit hip and you could kind of move a little bit to them. I'm like, ooh, then I can listen to this because this is church music. Mama was like, okay. But I loved what they did and what they continue to do. And I talked about last time, I love that Hammond organ, and this girl can play the organ on this one. So let's listen to a little bit of the Clark sisters before we even talk about them. We're just going to listen to them before we even get into it, because I can't wait. I gotta hear me some music. And they preach too. That's Dorinda.
Cause I get drunk in the spirit. But the second I can't turn it loose, I gotta have it. My habit is I can't stop serving my God. I'm a pusher too. Cause I have pushed God's word. I be tripping too. Instead of strips on LSD, I take them with DOD. And it takes me high.
One of the things with them is the preaching that they do as they sing. They were from Kojic, Church of God in Christ.
Hallelujah. You don't need no reefer.
And this is very controversial. She's acting like she's smoking
Some of y'all looking
reefer.
at me funny, you may be guilty. But you don't need no reefer. All you need is Jesus. Let me see your hand to know what I'm talking about. Say yes. Yes.
This is classic
It's
Clark
your living
sisters.
in vain. Just somebody say it's your living in vain. Up the road is eternal gain.
And the sister Twinkie is the one who plays the organ.
Is my living in vain? Is my giving in vain? Is my praying in vain? Is my fasting in vain? Am I wasting my time? Can the clock be rewind? Have I let my light shine? Have I made 99? No, no, no. No, no, of course not. It's not all in vain. No, 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 no. Look through is eternal gain.
All right. Beautiful, beautiful. That is the Clark sisters. So let's read a little bit or learn a little bit about them. They start on page 52. So let's get back to my PowerPoint. They're on the Clark sisters. All right, so the Clark sisters are Jackie, Elbernita, or Twinkie is what we always call her, Dorinda, Karen, and Denise. They're from Detroit area, the Detroit, Michigan area. And their notable songs are Is My Living in Vain, which we just heard, Expect a Miracle. You guys probably heard that one. I expect a miracle. And Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Oh,
Hallelujah.
okay.
Mhm.
When you sang that, I expect miracles, and I thought, oh yes, I have heard that. But
Every day. Yep.
okay, okay.
Mhm. Those are their notables. And then they had crossover hits. They had songs that were in the church and crossed over, like You Brought the Sunshine. and Name It, Claim It were also crossover hits. They are one of the most prolific gospel groups of all time, female gospel groups, best-selling female gospel groups. They've won a Dove Award, 3 Grammys, James Cleveland Lifetime Achievement Award in 2020 at the 35th Annual Stellar Awards. And these girls can sing. Like I said, they're preachers. A lot of them are preachers and singers. That was Dorinda we saw in the beginning, preaching before they started to sing their song. And they were, their roots are in the Church of God in Christ, and they emerged. Now they had a very famous mother who got them into music. Did anyone watch the movie that was on Tempest? You saw their movie?
Yes, I did. Yes, I watched it.
Okay. There was a movie that came out, I believe on Lifetime or one of those channels.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, about their life, and that was very interesting. But their mother is the legendary Dr. Mattie Moss Clark, and she was an organist and singer, and she was hard on her girls. She wanted them to do well, and if you get a chance to watch that too. What I like about the book is it just gives us short snippets, and it makes you want to go and learn more about the women in the book. It's a phenomenal book. Again, Joanne, thank you for suggesting this one for the book club, because it's really something different. We've not done anything like this. But with the Clark sisters, go ahead, Joanne, I'm sorry. hon.
No, I was just going to say my pleasure. I heard about it on TV that day and I called you right away. I said, we got to do it. We got to
Yes.
because
Yes.
I've always loved gospel music, but there were so many people in here that I didn't really know a lot about, you know?
Right. Me
Yeah.
either. And I thought I knew so much about it, but when I got this book, I'm like, I don't know half these people, which this was a good learning for me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Welcome. You're so welcome. The Clark sisters probably, we know more about them, some of us. It says after nearly 50 years, the sky is the limit for the message that the Clark sisters bring us and the hearts that they have touched all over the world. They have kept going on. They still get back together. Many of them went and did music on their own, and they have their own individual groups, but we still know them as the Clark sisters. And what I love about them, and again, it's about sisterhood. That's one of the themes in this book, is that these sisters, they come together. Despite their ups and downs and things that happen in life, they come back together and there's strength in that. It says I'm on page 60, throughout the late 80s and 90s, the Clark sisters continued to minister to audiences throughout the globe with both group and solo albums, and they measured their listeners with gospel classics such as Jesus is a Love Song, Pray for the USA, and Name It, Claim It. And they talk a lot about how they did their solo careers, because they're very successful singing on their own. But they, in 2020, gained that new legion of fans after that Lifetime movie that we just talked about with Tempest. The Clark sisters, First Ladies of Gospel, become the highest debut on the network with 2.7 million viewers. After nearly 50 years, the sky's the limit for the message that the Clark sisters bring the hearts that they had touched all over the world. So they kind of had a reboot. New Edition kind of had that when they had their movie, but these girls had, I didn't realize that till I read this book, how they gained that new audience, and they had the highest debut on the network ever, with 2.7 million people spent time to watch them. That says a lot. That is impressive. I am impressed by these girls. Anyone have anything that they read? And I know some of you have not read the book, or that you may want to bring out about the Clark sisters. This one picture, if you don't have the book, this is Bill Clinton. I don't know if you can see that, but they sang for President Clinton also. And so he's on that one picture with the Clark sisters. This is at the Aretha Franklin, at her funeral at the Greater Grace Tabernacle in Detroit. Where they sang.
One of the things that I found interesting is on page 56 with them singing with Snoop Dogg.
Yes. That's this picture.
Yes, that one.
Yeah, it says Snoop Dogg performed with Jackie, Dorinda, and Karen on stage during BET's 19th annual Super Bowl gospel celebration at Bethel University in St. Paul, Minnesota. Oh, by the way, those of you in Arizona, Super Bowl is coming and they always do a gospel show. I went the last time, not during the COVID, but one of the times that they were here, and it was really great. They will have that every year. Some of the players do a gospel concert. So yeah, that was one, and Snoop Dogg actually sang with them.
You know, I did not know there was a gospel show before every Super Bowl game.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. So we'll have to go to that.
Yes, I would love to do that.
That's really a lot of fun, and it's recorded. It's a recording, so they stop it and start it, because they want to make sure we didn't get that cut right. So it's interesting to be there because they air it on TV.
Huh.
Yes. Anybody else have anything on the Clark sisters?
Lisa?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I just want to say that ever since that I can remember, and when I had started listening to the Clark sisters, I just want to say that to me they were one of the best phenomenal women group of singers of all time, and even when they all did their solo careers, it still wasn't like a competition, really a competition between them, between them all, and I still liked how they all still came together and sing. And I actually this has been a few years ago. I actually had got a privilege to go to St. Louis to the Church of God in Christ, to one of their conventions, and I actually got to hear them sing and perform.
Oh, wonderful. I have never heard them perform in public together. I went to see Dorinda once. I bet that was such an experience.
Yes, it really was. It really, really was.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And so again, gospel music, Isn't Her Grace Amazing is the book. Women who changed gospel music. We can see from the Clark sisters, the change that they made is that they have crossed over, they stayed together, they went on their solo careers. They let women see that you can go off and do your solo, but then come back with your sisters again. I think that they have shown us a lot, and that 2.7 million viewers, and they were the highest debut on a network. That says a lot for them. So
Alicia,
go ahead, Meredith.
On page 59, up at the top, it talks about their camaraderie as sisters, and how they might have gone off and done that thing, but then they came back because they were sisters. They were a knit group, and it said that the Strong Family Foundation began under the genius and tutelage of their mother. So it was grounded in them to be tight and have that strong ties together. So it's great. We need a lot more of that today.
Yes, we do. And that's a great point, Joanne, that they did have those strong ties and they came back together. And that was under what they learned from their mother. Beautiful, beautiful. All right. Our next group, I've never heard of them, Clara Ward and the Ward Singers. I have heard of this group. I think my mom likes them. They were from Philadelphia, and they had songs such as Surely God is Able, How I Got Over, and Packing Up. They were one of the first gospel groups to have multi-million selling hits. And they were in the Songwriters Hall of Fame in '77. So Clara Ward and the Ward Singers appeared on the Flip Wilson Show in 1971. Does anyone remember the Flip Wilson Show? My dad used to like that.
I don't think I saw them on there, but I remember Flip Wilson. And when I hear that, they were on Flip Wilson Show, and then Snoop Dogg was singing with the Clark sisters, and I'm thinking, wow, I never thought of the two crossing like that,
Yes, I know it is. It's something else. They were dynamic singers. They appeared on Flip Wilson in '71. It says they had the elegance, grace, and poise of the Supremes. Now that says a
Oh.
lot. That's what she wrote. With their perfectly coiffed hair, bouncing in time to the rhythm. Beautiful, beautiful women. And certainly it says certainly the Flip Wilson show was more suited to dignified performances, with the audience politely clapping at the end of the performance. But there was just no way that the incomparable Clara Ward could grace the stage without everyone in the room rising to their feet. This was far from the last time that Clara and the Ward singers would encapture a television audience with their exuberant praise and songs. So they didn't know that these girls were as good as they were. Do y'all want to hear them? I think we need to hear a little bit of them.
Yes.
Yeah, let's listen. Look, they're beautiful. I love their hair already. They got me with the hair. All right, not the Clark sisters. We need to go to the Davis sisters. Clara Ward is where we are now. Okay. Oh, they have pretty hair on this one too. So let's share this screen. Oop, let me go back a little bit. They said the Ward singers foot stomping, soul shaking, and tambourine breaking performances. See her playing that tambourine. He will beat us until we want no more. Well, I want to go down in the old. Come on, let's go down to the river in the night. Old time way. I want to go down to the river in the old time way. Sunday night, bang in the world, coming up, shouting and shouting, shouting and shouting, shouting and shouting, shouting and shouting, shouting and pretty shoes. Everybody happy. Oh, now let's kneel in the old time. In the old time. Now let's kneel in the old time when he will hear and will be giving breath. Come and them a tear when you stop singing. They'll keep ringing. Tell the story of his glory. It will run and keep running. Christmas fire, big bells ringing, everybody singing, brother watching, Kennedy's watching, something burning, coming up, shouting, 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 shouting. Ooh, I like that one. That's beautiful. Tambourine, what they say? Foot stomping, tambourine playing. Go ahead, Joanne.
Were they from the Kojic background also?
You know, let me read that. I was just wondering. Let me get back to this screen and let's see. Let's do a little bit more reading. It says they brought a Pentecostal flair and delivery.
Okay, there it is.
They're Pentecostals. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And it also, yes, it also said how Clara was a master marketer in showcasing the group's talent and garnering them steady performances. Remember, we talked about that last time with these were businesswomen and they had to find ways to continue to make money. Well, Clara Ward, they were very prolific and out there, and she was a master marketer. And it said on page 69, by the beginning of the 50s, Clara and the group began touring with the Reverend C.L. Franklin, father of the Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. So they were traveling with Aretha Franklin's father. And eventually Clara became one of Aretha's mentors and confidants. And it says Clara was clearly Aretha's biggest influence. And we all know Aretha Franklin, that woman's voice, whoo, boy, could she sing. She could sing. And you could see it, they say, in everything from Aretha's phrasing in her songs to the elegance of wearing furs and then removing it with a flourish, down to her keeping her money and her pocketbook closely at her side. So she was influenced by Clara and the famous Ward singers. And they were now performing, that says that called to perform at Carnegie Hall and recorded 3 of the first million-selling singles in gospel music. So these are some of the first ones. Surely God is Able, Move On Up a Little Higher, and How I Got Over. Which made the group sound so infectious was their quartet style of switching leads between singers, which allowed the group to improvise songs in the movement and gave the singers the freedom to move their songs however the Holy Spirit led them to do so. Clara was also a prolific composer who set the standard for popular gospel compositions. And that's why they have a place in this book, is because they did so many things. They're very influential. And I learned so much about them from reading. We all have heard of Aretha Franklin. I did not know that she was so influenced by Clara Ward, and how they're beautiful, just wearing your hair the right way and looking beautiful. Remember, Mahalia was a hairdresser, we learned, and that's why her hair was always so beautiful, and she opened those beauty shops. But another one we see that image was really important. So that's my next question. How do you guys think image played a role in gospel singers today or even in the past? Where does image tie in there?
I think back then it was very important that they had to present themselves a certain way. Otherwise, people would not be willing to listen to them and hear the message that they had to carry. And back then, all women had to carry themselves in a more than we do now. But if they had not come as they were, they probably would not have been as popular, because people would be thinking that they're singing one thing and living another way, you know?
Right. Good point. Other thoughts on image? And it doesn't have to be with Clara Ward, could be any of the other singers or any other gospel singers you guys can think of.
Go ahead. I think in their time, society was so different. And they are very refined, and they're very very presentable, just appropriate, could be church or whatever. Right. But society was so different at that time. And now, even though image is still important, the image has changed. Yes. Present day from what it was at that time.
Excellent. Thank you, Eva. Great point. Miss Ruth, any thoughts?
Yes, I think that what I have discovered looking at their pictures in all of these beautiful clothing that they're wearing, it's attractive. I think the colors with the colored book made them look so graciously important.
Yes.
Their image and their dresses were very much a part of their lifestyle.
Right. Beautiful. Thank you, Miss Ruth. Anyone else?
Hello.
Chris, how are you?
Oh, my sister had car trouble and I had to go pick her up and take her home.
Oh, I'm glad you made it.
Oh, me too. Oh my gosh. Miss anything? Oh, Clara Ward. Oh my goodness.
Clara Ward, and we're talking about image and how image plays a role in gospel singers, past, present.
Running out of breath.
Oh no, catch your breath, and then we'll catch you up.
I'm ready.
Good to have you. All right. Okay, so we will move on. Our next group are the Drinkard Singers. Again, never ever heard of this group. Was anyone else familiar with the Drinkard Singers?
I had not heard of them.
Nope, they were new to me as well. Their group members were Emily Drinkard, Lee Drinkard Warwick. You guys heard of Warwicks, right? And
so was she related? Was she the daughter or niece of Dion or something?
Well, Dion's gonna be in a song we're gonna show in a few minutes. So Dion, Anne Drinkard Moss, Nick Drinkard, and Larry Drinkard, and they're from New Jersey. Their notable hits were Rise, Shine, Lift Him Up, Just a Little While to Stay Here, My Faith Looks Up to Thee. And their awards, they were the first gospel group to record on a major label. They recorded on RCA Records in 1959. So they had a jazz feel to them. So after the Newport Jazz Festival, the Drinker Sisters became the first gospel group to sign to that record, that RCA Records in '59, which was a big deal. That's huge. The Drinkers were invited personally by Mahalia Jackson to her opening act at Newport Jazz Festival. So they were called upon by Mahalia Jackson, our mother of gospel, to do a rendition of Rise and Shine. And that's where their notoriety came forth. You can hear a strong, commanding solo by the baby sister of the group, Emily, who better known in her career as a legendary Cissy Houston. You guys know her, right?
Oh,
Mm.
yeah.
Whitney's mom,
Mhm.
that perfectly paired with the tight and bright harmony of her siblings, Lee, Nick, Ann, and Larry. So let's hear them a little bit and then we'll talk some more. But I had never heard him as a Drinker singer, so I was happy to learn of a new group. All right, one moment. Here it is. And Dionne Warwick will be singing on this one as well. Maybe. Where we go? Here we go.
Tell me, who do you think fit in the lion's den? From that terrible sin, who puts the lock in the lion's door? Save the man from that terrible fall. It was Jesus. It was Jesus. Oh, it was Jesus. It was Jesus. And who do you think it was? Tell me, 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 who do you think fit in the lion's den? Say, don't Daniel from that terrible sin. Who put the lock in the lion's door? Say, don't Daniel from that terrible fall. Tell me, who gave the man and the city to pay? Who placed my feet on a rock to stay? But it was Jesus.
You guys know that song, Dionne Warwick singing the lead. I love seeing the woman, the lady playing the drums. Beautiful, beautiful. It's so funny to hear, not funny, but awesome to hear Dionne Warwick singing a gospel song, because I know her from, her soft melodies. I was like, yeah, she has it in her. So I do know the mystery as where she fits in with this. Look at that. It says on page 79 that Grammy Award winner and daughter of founding member Lee Drinker, Dionne Warwick. So she was his daughter. They were definitely inspired by God. It was a kind of sound that made people rise to their feet. So Dionne Warwick was the founder, Lee Drinker's daughter. And then we had Whitney Houston's mom and their Sissy. And then that was a cute picture of, let me show my pictures so I can know where I'm going. A young Whitney Houston with her mother Sissy on that picture right there. So those are the Drinker singers. Again, they were the first gospel group to be signed to a major label. One of the unique dynamics in the Drinker singers is that women in the group took on equal footing with the men. Sissy and Ann were the group's primary songwriters, and Lee was the group's manager. It was good for me to see them in leadership roles, Warwick noted. This highly influenced me later on in my career. I was confident enough to sign all of my checks and make decisions for myself. I think that says a lot in the role of women and them at this point in gospel history. They were songwriters and having a much higher role in what they were doing. Did anyone find anything else interesting about the Drinkard sisters from your reading, or any questions you may have that maybe I can answer?
You mentioned a page. What page did you refer to, Professor?
That was on page 79.
Okay.
Yes. They say with their firm legacy in place, the Drinkard singers will no doubt continue to be one of the pivotal bricks in the foundation of gospel music. Again, what I really liked about this book was that she brought in some groups that maybe we didn't think of. She's a really good writer, Cheryl Wills is. She's that veteran journalist with Spectrum New York. And she's a reporter, Emmy Award-winning reporter and author. And she really wanted to get this book out there so that women could be saluted, those pioneers in gospel music. So that was our last sisters group for this week.
I do have a question. Maybe you've answered it. I did ask it last time, but I'm still curious.
Yes.
Barry Gordy, and if you explain what that means, because I know Barry Gordy and what he's done, but
yes,
Barry Gordy, the Barry Gordy of gospel music is referring to another group, but the group was recognized as the Barry Gordy of gospel music. Can you explain that phrase a little bit?
You remember which group that is, Chris?
Yes, that was when she was talking about the gospel singer, the architects, Roberta Martin on page 109.
Oh, okay. We haven't gotten there yet.
Oh, okay. Then I'll wait.
So let's wait. Let's
Okay,
wait.
yeah, okay. All right.
That's
Okay.
a good one. But you did have
Yeah.
that question about whistling, and I looked that one up for you.
Oh.
Ask that question and I'll answer for everyone.
The question
Uh-huh.
that I had about whistling.
Yes.
I read that Inez Andrews whistled her songs as she preached. And she did a combination of whistling and preaching that was new, that no one had ever heard anybody whistle a prayer or a sermon.
Uh-huh.
That's what she did. She whistled. So I'm wondering how she whistled, what it sounded like, because as you know, when we whistle, a tune that's familiar, that's different. But she was whistling gospel music. I found that very unusual. I didn't understand that.
And
I
I
thought that
didn't
was good.
So I looked it up, and then what it meant was she would hit those high notes, like she would sing, ah! You know how they,
Oh, yeah.
I can't do it, but
Yeah.
anyway, that was what whistling meant. It was hitting high notes while singing. So that's what it's
Oh, that's
gospel
what,
as
okay.
whistling. Yeah.
Oh, so she wasn't whistling a song, the
Nope.
the
She
high
was
notes. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Mhm.
She
All
would
right.
hit those high. Woo! You know,
I got it. Yeah, okay. That
so
makes
like
sense.
little
Yeah.
Richard did it, right? When we think of the singer Little Richard, and we could consider that whistling when he would hit that high
Mhm.
note. When he,
Mhm.
yeah, so
Okay.
that's what that is.
All
Thank
right.
you. Great question. 'Cause
Thank you.
it stumped me. I was like, no, because I was like, I would look at it and I'm like, she's not whistling. What is this? And I had and then I found the answer. That was a good question, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so we just had just a couple of questions and we're going to be done. And I try to keep us at an hour. We're just maybe going to go over 5 minutes if you all are okay. But how does sisterhood translate in gospel music? And there's no right or wrong answer, but chapter 2 was all about sisters. But how would you say that sisterhood translates into gospel music?
Sisterhood? Do you say sisterhood? Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm. Well, if we figuratively consider the women of families to
Yeah.
be the cross bearers of families who struggle, or families in general, the matriarch is the symbol of families, and it is the matriarch in that position as being the mother. The mother is an example for the other women to be like her if she's strong, or remember her words or her prayers. And it's what brings women together,
Yeah.
to bring women together and share us as women, because men don't do that. Obviously, if they share each other as men, well, I don't know what they do besides drink. I'm sorry to say that, but I apologize if I offended anybody. But what I meant was the women gather strength from women.
Mhm. That's beautiful. Thank you, Chris.
Mhm.
You brought up some really good points. I don't want to say my answer yet, but you got me thinking. Okay. Joanne, what are you thinking?
Well, I was thinking along the lines that Chris was talking, but I was thinking that in a sisterhood, there's real close knit feelings, and in the songs that they were singing about, like maybe just a little closer walk with thee. So there was a message there in those songs. And if you think about the close knit message in a song, and
Yes.
the close knitness of the sisterhood, it just translated into that song. And maybe because there was that close knitness there, they could really sing a song and have the I can't even think of the term I want to use now, but the love and the caringness come out in their songs in such a way that it just made them stand above the rest.
That's beautiful. Yes, that close knit bond that they have. Good. Eva, what do you think?
I was just thinking, I agree with definitely the connections. I think it helps us form certain connections, and I think sisterhood in gospel music inspires women, or that connection between and among women. Yeah, we support it one another, as someone said, and it just inspires those connections.
Beautiful. Yeah. I just want them to do well. It's like, those are my sisters. I think of myself as my own sisters. I want them to do good. I want them to love. I want them. Let's see. Miss Ruth, what do you think?
I've been listening, and I'm also wondering where I was in those years, because gospel singing was not part of my raising my children at that time.
Okay.
And the best gospel singing I heard was at my church, where mother and daughters sang together, which meant that they had love for one another, and that their singing just brought them together in a very good way.
Right.
Of sisterhood.
Yes.
Mother and daughter.
Beautiful.
It
does.
It was inspiring at our church to have those sisters and mothers singing songs together.
Beautiful. Thank you. Tempest, how about you? What does sisterhood mean to you? Thank you, Miss Ruth. Beautiful.
To me, sisterhood means, to me, it means your background, because I can truly say my background, because basically I've basically been in church all my life, and even growing up with my grandfather being the bishop of the Free Churches organization, and pretty much, just knowing the background, and knowing where you came from, and how your parents grew up, because both my parents grew up in the church, and everything. So pretty much church was really their life, besides of what they did outside, what they did outside the church. And now that I'm in my 30s, it church is basically like to me the only thing that really matters besides anything else. And just knowing how far gospel music has come from over the years. It's just to me it's just really a big inspiration. And just knowing how gospel music has evolved over the years.
Beautiful. You can really relate
Mm-hmm.
with these singers because they grew up, their parents were pastors and ministers. Beautiful. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome.
Michelle, how about you?
So when I think about it, sisterhood, how does it translate in gospel music? It makes me think of being in a sorority. It's almost like they're in their own sorority, in that they have this sisterhood, this bond that no one can take away from them, and it is one of those things, like someone has said, I want you to win, right?
Yeah.
There's no competition. Maybe deep down there is, but I didn't see that, right? And it's this bond that we share. And again, even if I can't be there for you, I'm still praying for you. You're still my sister. I can't be at everything, but I'm still praying. And we have this bond that no one else has but us, that are, these trailblazers that we talked about in gospel music. Like, even as they look back over their lives and look at the sisterhood that they created, not knowing that that's what they were doing, but that's what they've done. And so it's just amazing. But they have their own, in essence, a sorority that they are a part of and that they have built in gospel music.
Beautiful, beautiful. Oh, you guys answered it all. Wow. I would say I thought of all of what you said, and I think we encapsulated it, that it's a part of Black history. This is the Tempe History Museum, and this is the African American Affairs Committee's book club. It's family. I think that it's family. And many Blacks, we were raised listening to this type of music in our families, or we had a grandma or somebody who listened to it, that we would go to their house and hear it, or an auntie or somebody. But it's our music. It is our music, and it's beautiful. This book shares the women who inspired it. So I'm not going to answer that next question because we are out of time, but our next one will be October the 26th at 5. And then that night, we're going to finish the book. We're going to do chapter 3, which are architects of the melody. And some of the ones in that chapter are Shirley Caesar, Dorothy Love Coates, Dorothy Norwood, Marion Williams. I've heard of some of them. We're not going to be able to do everybody. I'm going to pick the best ones. And then we're going to do chapter 4, which are our crossover queens. We got to talk about Aretha Franklin. Believe me, we're going to spend some time on Miss Aretha. And we have Rosetta Thorpe, whom I like as well. Mavis Staples. Oh, that woman has a voice. Y'all know the Staples singers. CeCe Winans. I knew they couldn't forget the Winans. And Mary McRae, who have a reality show. And then chapter 5, and Still She Shouts. We'll touch on some of that, which are people like Tamala Mann, whom you may know from Tyler Perry, and she has a beautiful voice. Dottie Peoples, Tremaine Hawkins, and Kim Burrell is in this chapter, and one of my favorites, Yolanda Adams. That girl has a good voice. So we're going to finish it up next time. It's such a good book. I could spend months and months on it, but we got to close it out next time. So I look forward to October 26th at 5. I hope you can join us, and we'll try to get some more on here. It's been a really good book study. It's been different. We read novels. We've read Colson's books, and we've read so many things, but nothing quite like this. So it was a nice change, and I think it's a good book to have in the museum, so that people can see another side of Black history. So thank you, and
Yes.
I look forward to the 26th.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
We can
Thank
stop
you.
recording,
Bye.
Brianna.
Hey, lady.
Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
thank